Round one.
As the Green Goblin circles around me, we come to you live on MMA Weekly. It's UFC Fallout. Jim Grieshaber, call me Grease, with Jeff Cain. We got the hoodies on, Jeff. That means it's Sunday. That means the fight cards are over. That means we're hanging by a thread. That means we had to spend all day long just trying to build up our dang energy today. Come to the people a little bit later than normal because we needed to build that energy back up after it was drained and sucked out of us like a team of vampires got a hold of us last night trying to watch that UFC Fight Night card. Illegal knee, eye poke. Oh, my God, dude. We were due for one of these. And, we got the Cyril Gane fight a couple of weeks ago against Rosenstrike that nobody seemed to like, and we got spoiled, and we were complaining, and we had to complain, Jeff. We had to complain, and then the MMA gods just said, yeah, you want to complain? The biggest story from UFC Fight Night is going to be a fighter who was on the undercard moving a sponsor's bottle to join another fighter who's her teammate in protest of Doth Company that sponsors the UFC. And that's the biggest story as we head into UFC Fallout today. That, and we don't know any more about Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad in that division than we did coming into this. And I will say this, Jeff Cain. I will say, and I want to let everybody know about CBD Emporium and Level Select CBD in just a minute, but I will say this. There is one fighter who was on the card, who really helped himself last night. And two, if you count Angela Hill, and now I'm counting her twice because Angela Hill is the fighter in question with the sponsor. And Angela Hill is the fighter who performed very well last night and helped herself the second most on the card behind Dan Ige. Thank you, Dan Ige, for giving us one thing that we can look to today. Thank you, Dan Ige, for giving us one thing that we can talk about today that actually moved something forward within this sport, within a division, within the Ultimate Fighting Championship from that card, Jeff Cain, last night that I'm still trying to recover from and not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah, it's easy to focus on the incidents that happened last night to kick off the main card with Eric Anders, the illegal knee, and then the anticlimactic ending to the fight card. And we kind of forgot that leading into that main event were three ridiculous knockouts in a row. We kind of, it gets overshadowed. The 16-second knockout to kick off the preliminary fight card. Hani Yaya's submission, as you mentioned earlier. Angela Hill's performance. There were some bright lights or some bright things that happened last night, but all of that got overshadowed with the two no contest. And man, it's just unfortunate, right?
Wait, before you put everyone to sleep, before we put everyone to sleep and drive everyone away, hard by CBD Emporium, CBD extra doses of it today after that fight card last night, Jeff, to help us with our anxiety, to help us with the depression, to help us sleep at night after, did I really just see that? Oh my God, man, what an unbelievable night. But anyway, I digress, and I want to let everybody know that you can get 50% off Level Select CBD or CBD Emporium CBD products just by going to stayinthefight.mma.com, putting in the code MMA50, stayinthefight.mma.com. The code is MMA50 for CBD Emporium featuring Level Select CBD. Level Select CBD, stay in the fight. And Jeff, I do think that, it was unfortunate for Eric Anders last night that the knee was, obviously a reason that he ends up getting a no contest, and he didn't lose the fight. Completely different ruling than the Jan and Sterling, because Piotr Jan obviously was ruled to be an intentional. This was ruled to be an illegal knee, but not an intentional knee. So it's a no contest, not a loss for either fighter, but you don't get the win bonus money. And then the same thing in the main event, accidental eye poke on Leon Edwards. And I love how Bilal Muhammad is like, he's not getting a title shot. He should do a rematch with me right away. Dude, sorry, but the ship has sailed. You don't get a rematch. I mean, there's no reason to give him a rematch. There's no reason he should have had the fight to begin with. What a mess. This is what happens when you do these things, Jeff. This is what happens when you do these things. They blow up and they backfire in your face.
Well, first let's go back to Eric Anders and then also the Aljamain Sterling. And we've debated it for years, man. Bring the knees back. Bring the knees back. It's just not. Whenever a fighter is on his knee in front of you, every fiber of your being is fire off a knee at him. We're taking weapons away from these fighters, and we see it's just not. You're allowed to knee. I can grab you in the back of the head and pull your head down to my knee, right? But I can't knee you in the head on the ground. We just need to get rid of that rule altogether, in my opinion. And the eye pokes, look, This has been going on for years and years and years. We have several glove companies that have put out prototypes to try to fix this problem. We have to start acting on it before someone loses their damn eye. I mean, really, we have to stop with these open glove for the fingers before someone suffers a career-ending eye injury because somebody can't keep their fingers, bent.
Well, people have suffered career-ending eye injuries and kept fighting even though they weren't supposed to. Bisping, certain people like that. I mean, there have been some pretty, and you remember the DC Stipe, the trilogy fight. I mean, look, DC with some eye pokes, and then Stipe with the big eye poke in that last one. There's Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad? No one remembers his name today because he stopped fighting after the eye poke, and it's not his fault necessarily, but DC kept going. I'm just going to say that. DC kept going. It was a title fight. When you get an opportunity like that, and now you're going to say he has to rematch me. No, he doesn't. I mean, look, he didn't continue in the fight last night. Not saying he should have, but he doesn't necessarily get that opportunity again, Jeff. That ship has sailed. I mean, I don't know why Edwards took the fight the first time. I sure as hell don't know why he would ever take it the second time.
Well, Edwards just had been inactive for so long, and that fight with Kazmat had been postponed. He just wanted to get back in there. But no, they're not going to rematch that. It's unfortunate for Belil because he, he's the victim in this. And look, there's no question that eye was severely damaged. I mean, it's swelled up immediately, and you can look at the picture there. I mean, that finger is in that eye, pulling the bottom eyelid out. He is so lucky, Jim, that he didn't suffer long-term effects of that. Look, I don't blame Belil for not continuing. You can't continue with one eye, and especially against the number 3 guy in the world, and so.
But Bilal Muhammad doesn't get a rematch.
No, he's definitely not going to get a rematch. And I think part of that is why he was so emotional, right, and crying and kind of distraught about it. Is that was a huge opportunity for him, and it's gone because he got poked in the eye. Also, I think that he might have been worried that, man, his eye was really injured. I've broke my orbital bone, and I couldn't see anything. My eye wouldn't move. I couldn't look up. I couldn't look down. And, man, it's a freaky situation because you think, man, am I never going to see again? Luckily for me and luckily for Belil, it didn't turn out to be have long-term effects. But, man, that's a serious issue we have to deal with. We have to deal with the open glove and eye poke situation.
We do. And Bilal Muhammad is definitely not going to get that rematch, Jeff. But, I mean, it's too late for him. But definitely see this happen all the time. The DC Stipe trilogy, the eye poke was a huge part of the way that fight ended up. There have been so many eye pokes in big fights over the years. And we know why the fingers come out in the gloves. We know why the gloves are what they are. It's for takedowns. It's for grappling. It's for all those things. And it will take quite a bit away from the sport if you take away that ability to have those. You feel it. Some feel it, which I know is your number one concern. But the quality of grappling, takedowns, all those things, wrestling's presence in the sport, all of that will be, I believe, drastically altered if you change the gloves.
Well, I mean, there have been several prototypes, and so these gloves are open finger. They come down to the middle joint, the UFC gloves and most MMA gloves. The other gloves come over the finger and turn, but they allow you to have mobility of your fingers. It's for the grappling situations. And are we going to have to try them and test them? Yes, man, we're going to, and we're going to have to figure out which one works the best. I think we can come to a compromise on that because the alternative is what it is. And we need to eliminate fight stopping from eye pokes. And, I think that we can bridge that gap between the grappling concerns and the eye pokes. I just think we need to take all these glove companies. I mean, look, challenge them right now. I mean, every glove company in the world right now needs to be the one to come up with the glove, right? There's millions of dollars to be made.
Kind of like the vaccine for COVID, man. 1, 2, 3, go.
Go. Yeah. Start designing it.
Go.
Get with fighters.
Whoever wins first, the best one that gets done the soonest.
Yeah.
But here's what else I'll say, Jeff. I think you have to put more of an onus on the fighters, too. I think you have to put more of a responsibility on the fighters to know the rules. And I think that there's no reason you would have an open hand going upstairs. There's no reason. So if it's a closed fist up top because you're grappling down low, and if you're grappling, you're going to be shoulders or below anyway. So anything open-handed above the shoulders is a penalty. Anything. There's no reason for you to have an open hand. There's no reason for you to have an open fist anywhere above the shoulders. I mean, maybe when you're grabbing someone behind the head in the clinch, cool. Other than that, and these refs are so good, they could enforce that. They can enforce that, man. You should not be sitting here going like this 100 times. That's bullshit anyway. Bullshit. Keep it closed. Keep it closed, man. It's a jab. Don't any more of this. Nobody wants that shit anyway. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. And that's where they're happening. They're happening coming straight across like that with the jab hand, because they're coming straight across like this to get the timing, to throw off the timing, to keep the distance. Do it with a closed damn fist. Anything above the shoulder, or you lose a point. I like that. I like that better. I mean, look, that's what they did with texting and driving, and no one texts and drives anymore.
Yeah, I don't like taking points away in a 3-round fight in a 10-point must system, because you're basically saying you lost the fight.
Keep it closed, and they won't take it away, right?
Or change the gloves, or if we just fix it by changing the gloves, because you're going to have fighters reach out, a lot of times. I mean, that's something that they've done for years and years and years. You see it. It's not only in you see it in kickboxing, you see it in other mixed martial arts promotions. It's just the way it is. You kind of reach out to get your timing, and it looked like that's what Leon was doing. He was getting the space to throw the kick, and man, that eye, he caught the eye. And yeah, they changed fights. When Cormier beat Stipe, he knocked Stipe out about 15 seconds after an eye poke.
Yep.
And John Jones.
Nobody was crying for DC with an eye poke. No one was crying for DC with an eye poke. No, that's for sure.
But they changed the course of a fight. I don't want to downplay an eye poke. An eye poke changes everything, man. If I can't see, I can't defend myself, and I can't defend.
What if Kamaru Usman couldn't have faked the eye poke against Colby because he has gloves that would protect from the real eye poke, and he could not have faked the eye poke, and Colby would be the champ.
Or potentially. I mean, Kobe got finished. Kamaru wasn't close to being finished when that eye poke happened.
Oh, you got to go back and watch it. I think it could have happened. I know what you're saying, but I feel like the tide was turning and Kamaru knew it. So it was like, oh, he poked me in the eye, even though his fingers were 14 feet away.
Yeah. And as far as Eric Anders goes, like I said, let's just get rid of the damn knee rule. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's a stupid rule. It is an absolute.
So you think you should be able to knee a downed opponent?
I think I ought to be able to knee. I think I should be able to soccer kick you. I think I should be able to use any weapon to my disposal, except for stomps, because those I think are really dangerous.
And 12-6 elbows.
No, 12-6 elbows are perfectly fine. That's all.
12-6 elbows too. Okay.
Yeah, why? I mean, if I can elbow you in every position, a straight down elbow is not doing any more damage. It causes cuts. That's why they stopped it. That's why
but then you have to allow the punches to the back of the head and everything else too.
No, you do not. A downward elbow, the reason why the rule was created is because Gan McGee caught somebody against the fence and downward elbowed the shit out of him, creating a bloody mess, and the commission didn't like the aesthetics of it. It has nothing to do with fighter safety. It has nothing to do with the damaging of the elbow. It had to do with the aesthetics of blood everywhere. And so the rule wasn't even passed for fighter safety. That's what I don't get. And as far as I'm concerned, like I said, if you are on your knees on the ground and I can knee you in the head, that's on you. You shouldn't be protected because you can put a knee down on the canvas. That's the most ridiculous thing in the world. What is that, like timeout? I mean, is that like a safe spot? I get to put my knee down. Now the fight, he has to only punch at me. I don't know, man. I don't like the rule. We should change the damn rule. If a fighter gets kneed in the head, that's on them. In my concern, protect yourself at all times.
I agree. Why can we helicopter kick someone in the face but not a knee to a downed opponent? Jeff says that. I think the knee to the downed opponent is a little much. I do, and I do think it does protect and save. But clearly, Aljamain Sterling was going to stay there for the rest of his life so that he couldn't be kneed. That was what he was doing at the time. You can't knee me. You can't knee me.
And that's the problem with the rule.
You can't. And so you literally you can't do it. It's like the quarterback in the NFL can't touch the quarterback anymore. I mean, it's a completely different game. Tom Brady, I'm going to play to 50. Yeah, because no one's breathed on you in 10 years. Of course you can play to your 50 years old. The rules change.
What you said earlier about the fingers is interesting, right? It's an open hand above the shoulders. You would get a point deduction. Okay, you stay on your knees for more than 2 seconds. Point deduction. You're not going to hide out there and stall out a fight because you're afraid you're going to get kneed in the head in a damn fight.
Man, I love when Jeff Cain gets fired up. What do you guys think in the chat right now, man? Smash that subscribe button. We got 10,000 subscribers in the last month. The bosses are being cheap. They won't pay us what we're... I'm just kidding. Wrong show. Wait a minute. Hold on. Jeff Cain, we need a raise. I'm just kidding. Oh, long story short, I'm not kidding that we need a raise. But long story short, man, we have fun with the show. And we do. And last week it was the pound for pound list. This week it's the gloves. It's Angela Hill's dumbass stuff with the Monster Energy. Izzy's done it before. I've been in the media room where Izzy walks in and throws the Monster container and says, man, they don't sponsor me this shit. I've seen fighters do that. It happens. The UFC forces their corporate sponsors down all the fighters' throats, from the Reebok deal, from everything they've had to do. Hey, you guys are wearing this shirt. Hey, you can't move this bottle. That's a corporate sponsor. And Angela Hill is like, hey, I got to move that because that's for my boy Dom. Obviously, they know each other. They're buddies and all that from Alliance MMA. So when I look at her and I see what she did, and people are up in arms about it, and we did a great job. Sometimes you just have a knack being around a long time. Our guy in Vegas has been around a long time. Said, hey, I bet you I should put this out by itself, and it'll do really well. It does. It does a lot of views. People get all up in arms. Hans Molenkamp thing, Jeff. Where did Jeff go? There he is. They're bringing you in and out. Dude, I was there when Dominic, you and I were both here live when Dominic Cruz started saying about Hans Molenkamp, and Dana's comments got put up there. I don't know Hans. I do know Hans likes to fancy himself being a fighter or hanging out around fighters, just like almost every other jock sniffing sponsor wants to do. It's why they do it. It's why they take the jobs they have so they can hang around fighters and be a part of the posse. They want to be involved. They want to be the guy. Hey, he'll take care of it. Hey, he'll give me tickets. Hey, he'll get me to this fight. He wants to be the guy. He's like the booster at a major college football program until the guy gets caught. But long story short, I have no problem with Hans Molenkamp. I have no problem with Monster Energy. I have no problem with Angela Hill. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't like Monster Energy. I think it tastes like shit, just for the record. But at the end of the day, if I were an athlete, Jeff Cain, I don't want to have brands put in front of me that make it seem like I am endorsing this brand when I don't. And I think this is a change that's slowly occurring in the UFC, and you're going to see fighters take back the control of their likeness and their image, because you cannot do it forever. And eventually there will be a lawsuit that gets where the UFC has ruled against them, and they cannot do that anymore. But they've gotten away with it for a long damn time, and I'm surprised.
Yeah, as far as Hans go, we're in a, and like, I agree with what Dominic and Angela are saying, as far as, you're a professional athlete. We expect professionalism from the sponsors of the sport and from people representing these big brands. I get that. But on the other side, Hans to me is just like a fanboy, right? I mean, he just wants to hang around fighters. He wants to say he's friends with fighters. This isn't a guy who's like inappropriately sexually assaulting people or making outrageous comments. I feel like this situation can be handled by just talking to Hans and be like, dude, back up a little bit. It's not professional what you're doing. Yeah, man, we all like fighters, but you can't do that. I feel like this situation, and maybe that's already happened, where they've complained to Monster and the fighters feel like this is their, kind of their only recourse. I get what the fighters are saying, but at the same time, in the world we're living in, what Hans is doing isn't that bad.
Well, no, overall, but I mean, he is like, according to Dominic Cruz, trying to tell fighters that they need to fulfill their crack, which aren't necessarily things that are in the corners. That's something that his company will deal with him if they do anything. Yeah. But I do want to see the whole thing with Dom play itself out. In the meantime, here's what Angela Hill had to say about it last night, because that's who we are at MMA Weekly. We bring you right there inside the apex where it all goes down.
Good stuff. Last one from me. You put the thing on the floor. Are you hashtag Team Dom or hashtag Team Hands?
Hands don't want these hands. No, I'm always hashtag Team Dom. I don't care who it is, who's talking shit about. I'm hashtag Team Dom. He's done so much for me as a teammate, as a friend, and yeah, if he's speaking out against the guy, like, there's definitely weight to it. He's a respectful person, and yeah.
Do you think like his phone blew up from loads of other fighters being like, finally someone said something?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it from so many other fighters, so many other fighters just annoyed by the things that they had to do for their sponsorship. So it's kind of a weird a weird like undercurrent where like they're annoyed, but you never want to say who, because like you don't want to mess up their money. You don't want to mess up like their lifeline. So it was really cool and brave of Dom to like put his name on there and just say, hey, I'm speaking out for all these fighters who do have to deal with this, because I'm sick of it, and I know you guys are too. So
thanks very much.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use the post-fight press conference platform provided to me by my employer, who is sponsored by this company, to do it. Probably not the smartest thing, Jeff Cain. Not the smartest thing for the fighters to do, and obviously it's something that Angela Hill's comfortable doing because she doesn't care. I don't think that's the place for it. I don't think that's where you complain about sponsors, is on the post-fight podium. And I also think that, this guy asks a million questions at every press conference. He should also know that they're teammates. So he should know that she's Team Dom. All kinds of errors.
Yeah,
there,
but
all
she's
over the
not.
place.
I mean, this is what I'm saying, though. Look, what Dominic Cruz did, Dominic Cruz can afford to do. Right? Dominic Cruz is a former champion. He's been in a lot of title fights. He also has a side gig of being a commentator for the UFC. You know, he has sponsors of his own. This isn't going to kill him, even if Monster walks away from him. But there are other fighters that can't speak up. They can't, even though they feel comfortable about it. And because Dom, especially Dom, because Dom's professional. Dom's been around a long time. He understands the game. For Dom to do what he did in the octagon and at the post-fight press conference, it kind of tells me that they've complained. You know, they've complained before, and they were met with silence. And so you put it to light however you can. And look, Angela Hill was asked about it. She didn't want that question. You know, she set the Monster Energy can down. A member of the press corps asked her a question. You got to answer the question. But I do think the press needs to be careful about that, because we are talking about fighters' careers. We are talking about their financial security, and so you know, you got to be careful. I know that we want the truth and we want to ask everything, but I mean, I don't know, man. Angela Hill, it's a setup question to where she has no good answer. You know, there's no way for her to wiggle out of it.
But she had Dom's back. And I will say this about Molenkamp and about Monster. He is at the forefront of everything. Michael Bisping has said he lost the sponsorship at Monster because he told them they weren't friends. He told Hans they weren't friends. So this guy clearly is the guy who wants to be friends with the fighters. You know, like Suge Knight said, all up in the video. All up in the video. You know, he wants to be there. He wants to be in the pictures. You saw what Dana White's comment was about the guy. He likes to strategically place himself and have somebody take a picture so he can say that he was meeting you. We all have friends like this. The whole world is like this because of social media, Jeff. Every single person is like, look at me, I'm on my private jet. No, you're not. They actually have private jets that allow these quote-unquote influencers to come on for $30 to take a picture on it and get off and say that they were, I'm flying private. No, you're not. You know, so it's like one of those things that the world helps create. This guy wants a cool Instagram. He's got a big following, right? So Stephen Phillips says, so let them, you're paid to play the game, so love or hate them. You're paid to put up with it. No, you're not. You're not.
No, you're not.
You're paid to let your likeness and you be a spokesperson as someone who does these deals. You're paid to be a spokesperson for a company like I am for Level Select CBD and CBD Emporium. Now, if the person who is doing the deal, in this case for Level Select and CBD Emporium, we work through CBD Emporium to get with Level Select CBD. So it's through CBD Emporium, and they do what's called a co-op with Level Select. So there's two companies there, whereas Monster's just one. But Molenkamp is the rep. He's the guy who wines and dines the fighters to get these things done, from my best understanding, and he does a good job for Monster to get people in and not pay him as much as they will, you know, save money here and there, maybe not pay him as much, you know, some of the perks and stuff like that. He's in charge of delivering the perks to the fighters, and he wants to deliver the perks to himself as part of being friends with the fighters. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's American business. It's the way it's always been done. You know, as long as you're not Weinsteining people and going, well, if you just sleep with me, you know, I mean, it's nothing like that, right? But Hans is trying to make himself, he's trying to throw his weight around. He's trying to get what he wants out of the deal. And the fighters are pissed off about it. You're saying clearly they've been to Monster before based on the actions here, and it seems like they had and weren't getting anywhere. But, Jeff, I just want to bring this back full circle. The one thing I know about Dominic Cruz, because I'm tight with some people in his inner circle, really tight, and I know Dom really well as I could. I know the other people a lot better, but from what I've seen and been around him, the dude doesn't play around. He's very, very serious about fighting. He's very serious about commentating, about business. I did a whole interview with him about his style of commentating. He's very serious about his name, his image, his likeness, very serious about everything. And if we could get that clip somewhere of what he said about Hans and Monster, that would be epic. Emmy award-winning shit right now, Jeff. But what I would say is for Dominic Cruz to go that far out on a limb and make it the first thing he talks about, and to say it in the octagon and in the post-fight press conference, as seriously as Dom takes everything, if you know Dom, and you do, Jeff, so you know what I'm talking about. You know him. Very serious. Those words were chosen very carefully. They were done. I mean, everything he did, he knew exactly what he was doing every step of the way. Dominic Cruz doesn't do anything in any other way.
No, Dominic knew what he was going to say. He knew who he was going to talk about, and he chose his words. You know, and he said what he said. But that's what I'm saying, and I want to get across to our audience is that Dominic Cruz does not do that. Dominic Cruz does not do that. Dominic Cruz did that because he's tired of it, and he feels like he had to go public with it because his private complaints were met, unanswered or whatever. Dominic Cruz isn't, that's just not who he is. He's pointing this out because so many fighters have said things about it. And like I said, I feel like Monster can handle this. What Hans is doing is unprofessional to the max, man. I mean, I said that he's not sexually assaulting people and saying crazy shit, but man, that still it doesn't make it professional what he's doing. And he is using his position of power to get things out of people who are not in his position, are not on a level playing field with him. And so it's just unprofessional all the way around. Look, could he be fired? Sure. But I feel like Monster could handle this situation by just sitting him down and saying, man, you can't be a fanboy and a rep at the same time.
Hold on 1 second. I'm going to ghetto-fy this for us right here. I got the clip pulled up. Hold on.
So, Dom, first of all, great performance. Just now you've had a few moments to digest it. How do you feel the fight went?
There we go.
It was closer than I wanted, but...
This is off
I've had a lot
MMA
of split
Weekly's
decisions
YouTube
in my
that you
career,
should
so
be
it's not
subscribing
too
to right now and
Were you
liking.
surprised it was a split
and
decision
ringing the
when they
bell.
started reading the scores out?
Oh, I thought it was the first question.
No,
Hold
because
on.
my coach
And it literally says
was
Dominic
gonna
Cruz
start
wants to
the
fight
face
executive
exams
Monster Energy drink.
Actually, I did not. I try to
Yeah, he called him out for a charity
listen to my
fight
coaches.
because Hans presents
Go,
himself as a
push,
professional
right, you
fighter.
gotta push.
And so Dominic's like, well, fine, I'll fight you. And let's give
Wait,
the
here we
money
go.
to
Here we go,
charity.
Jeff. I got it.
Hans, what's the last thing, sorry?
Here it is. I got it.
He'll probably love that he's getting plugged like this, to be honest. So it's actually a benefit for him. So he should thank me. But yeah, it was just, that we're in a
Right
day
off
and age
MMA
where you
Weekly's
can,
YouTube.
if I take a picture with Conor McGregor like this, now I'm Conor McGregor's friend, right? If I take a picture with Dominic Cruz and have him commenting on my page, we're in a day and
This is
age where
picture
that
in
looks
picture
like
in
we're
picture,
friends.
guys. This is
Well,
revolutionary.
I mean, I may be your friend, but you can't use me in order to get clout, as they put it. And I'm not here to be used. I work very hard. Look at my face. Look at my body. I get beat to death for a living. So when you try to force me and you text me, if I don't comment on your page, if I don't give you an interview that you're going to take what pays my bills, what are we doing? Monster sponsors me, not you. And so this was a call out because he calls himself a pro fighter. He's got 100 pounds weight on me. And I'm like, we can make this a win-win situation. Let's do a charity event. Monster picks the charity. And then we scrap it out. He says he's got 3 pro fights. Let's prove it. Put your money where your mouth is. You got a little tiny guy calling you out for charity, not for anything else. Why not?
And this is Hans Molenkamp, just to be clear.
Yeah.
How long is this issue between you and him?
I don't have
Might
an
as
issue.
well just let it
I
go.
just want charity to make some money. I have no issue with this guy.
You mentioned on
He
the
does have an
podcast
issue.
that he's keeping fighters trapped in contracts. Is that the situation between you and him? Are you trapped in a
Like
contract
saying
with
it
this
didn't
guy?
hurt.
It's
Yeah,
not
it
trapped
hurt.
in a contract. It's forced to give him clout, forced to hype him up if I want to make money.
Ooh.
Monster
Okay.
pays
There
me.
it is.
Extortion.
So
I mean, what
it would
Dominic
be-
says, extortion.
The equivalent would be, does the UFC pay me?
This is on
Yes.
MMA Weekly's
Does
YouTube
Dana
if
White
you want
own
to
the
see the whole
UFC?
thing.
Yes. So if Dana White says, hey, go on my page and like my page. Dana White has complained on this guy. Dana White has gone on this man's page and said something. They ignored it like it didn't happen. So I'm not the first one to say something. Dana's also said something. Maybe ask him about it.
I will. With that in mind,
All right, so there we go. We're not going to roll that any longer. But I'm working on an exclusive interview, by the way, guys, with Dominic Cruz right now. Can't say I'm definitely getting it, but I'm working through my contacts and my sources, and I don't mind saying who it is. It's Orlando Jimenez, my buddy who hangs out with Dom and lives with him and trains with him all the time, and Suzette, Dom's mom, who's an author of Broken Before Battle, covering MMA. But I'm going to try to get an exclusive with Dom. For the love of God, not to talk about this stupid shit, but to talk about how inspiring he is and how he's, coming back and, yet again, when people are putting in the nails in the coffin of Dominic Cruz, all of a sudden the top just pops right open and out pops Dom. But, look, this isn't a stupid issue, Jeff. I should actually be more sensitive. I said I wasn't going to talk about this, but I should know better. And I always say I'm not going to. You guys will learn and know me, all the guys at MMA Weekly. When I say I'm not going to do it, I end up doing it because I'm stupid. And I can't get myself out of a situation where I'll say something stupid and probably hurt myself in the long run, which is what my entire 20s in sports radio were all about when I got fired from some pretty big stations for running my mouth a little too much. But that being said, I think it's definitely Jeff, and I'd be a pussy if I didn't say something. These fighters are fighting for a lot less than they should be fighting for. And to be completely controlled to the point where now, since the Reebok deal, you can't wear your own sponsors in there. You know how much money that costs guys like Ryan Bader, that big part of the reason why he went to Bellator. So you're taking away the individual's ability to make their own sponsorship dollars, and you're saying, well, we're paying you. You're paying them a pittance compared to what the good ones were making. So you're not allowing them the opportunities to do that. So then a sponsor like Monster has to go through the UFC to get that sponsorship. For years, you saw those companies that were sponsoring the fighters and the UFC not making any money off of it. They would take a percentage of it, but the UFC was not having that. So some of these quote unquote power brokers, the Molenkamps of the world, the basketball. If you ever want to follow that story, and you'll know what we're talking about here. It's about the money. It's about the clout of being with these fighters, the money that a Hans Molenkamp makes to do that job. But he wants to use the clout for his own personal page. And if he's telling Dominic Cruz, you got to share on my shit if you want to keep your deal with Monster. Hey, if you're going to tell me it's in the contract and I need to share for CBD Emporium and Level Select, I have a certain amount of times I have to do it every day, right? That's part of a contract. But if you're telling me that the person who put the deal together, separate of the company, is telling me that I have to share their stuff if I want to keep them happy, that's a shakedown. That's like saying you got to buy me a steak. That's like saying you got to buy me a house if you want my son to play basketball there. This is something that is not on the up and up, and it always, in the end, Jeff, seems to screw the fighter.
Yeah, look, I kind of downplayed. I'm glad we played the Dominic clip because I had forgotten. I kind of put it out of my head what he's actually saying here. What he's talking about is extortion. What he's talking about is he is sponsored from Monster Energy, and Hans is coming to him saying, I will pull that sponsor if you don't do X, Y, and Z for me personally. That's extortion. He should be fired from his job. I'll go ahead and say it right now. I said earlier he's not sexually assaulting people. He's not. Look, that's the most unprofessional thing you can do. It is a shakedown. And Monster should step up and say that's not acceptable. It's as simple as that. I'm on Team Dom now. I was just kind of writing him up as a fanboy. Look, I've been around this sport a long time. Trust me, the majority of people that come and go are fanboys. They're in it to meet fighters, hang out with fighters, to be a part of the scene for those social media posts. Look at me. I'm with this guy. Look at me. I'm here. I'm there.
I do it. I do it all the time. I do it all the damn time. Guilty. Right here.
But, Hans, that's how I was categorizing him. And that to me is not what's going on. That's unprofessional in and of itself, but it's not what's going on. He's literally saying, I will pull your sponsorship money unless you do things for me personally. And that's why Dom said what he said. Wow. I mean, look, I props to Dom. I'll say that. Dom is a man of character. I've known Dom since the WEC days. I've been around Dom. I've interviewed Dom. Dom is a man of integrity. You cannot question Dominic Cruz's integrity. And when he comes out and puts your name on blast, you did some shit that's unacceptable.
Well, and he messed with Cruz's photographer, his videographer, this guy by the name of Courtney Hendo, right? And I know some of those guys in Dom's crew. I don't know him. I know the wrestler kid from Arizona anyway, who's over there. I can't remember his name, but he's Caden, K Goody is his Instagram, whatever. Anyway, long story short, the reason I just blurted that out is because I have no idea. But I want to say that with Molenkamp, and this is what happens when you have ADHD. Holy shit. Come on, Jim. Come back to us here. Hey, come on. All right. So basically what he did was this videographer who worked with Dominic Cruz in Alliance MMA, Molenkamp liked him, decided to hire him. They had like some sort of a beef, and he started telling fighters, if you work with this videographer, you don't work with Monster and you lose your money. So in essence, he's, utilizing his platform to bully people. He's doing what Weinstein did, minus like trying to have sex with everyone.
Yeah, it's just totally unacceptable and unprofessional. And I'm glad that Dom spoke up because, like I said, Dom's in a position to where other fighters can't. There's fighters on that fight card that cannot say a word. They cannot afford to lose that sponsorship. They can't go against the UFC. They can't go against Monster. And Dominic Cruz decided to stick his neck out on the line for everybody. And then some reporter asked Angela Hill about it because she removed the thing and she had to answer the question. But Dominic Cruz put himself out there. You know, that's what I was saying about Angela Hill. Angela Hill didn't put herself out there.
Did they get rid of him, though? Did they get rid of him? Did they get rid of Mullenkamp?
I think you have to.
He's disconnected his number. He hasn't responded publicly. I mean, this is a bad scene right now for Monster, and they're a big sponsor of a lot of shit, not just the UFC. They're as big a company as you could possibly
the
have.
X Games, everything, man, everything. Monster logos are on everywhere you look, man. They sponsor so much stuff, but you can't. As a company, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard than that.
He's
man.
not even an employee. He's a contractor.
They need to stop working. Cut that contract. Sever that contract because it's just not. It's not who. It's not. I mean, maybe it is. I can't speak for Monster, but surely it's not how Monster wants to represent themselves. You know.
And there's one thing I have to ask Hans Mullen. Action with him. If he wanted to sponsor my stuff better, because I have to be authentic with the people who I talk to, and I believe in products that are good. And I think maybe I've had like 2 Monsters, and plus the crap that they put in that stuff that'll kill you. So anyway, there's my commercial for Monster Energy Drink. But I wanted to say this about the people who are in that position. They do a lot of good in the world too. They do get a lot of fighters paid. There are people in that position who do a great job. He utilizes the position, from what we're being told, to benefit himself. We all fucking do. I mean, how many politicians over the years get favors back and kickbacks and everybody uses their position to do what's best for them, Jeff. But at the end of the day, here's the one question. How do you literally say, I'm going to go to war with Dominic Cruz? Wrong fucking guy. Out of all the fighters you could possibly deal with, he's got the microphone. He's outspoken. He's a legend. He has a lot of clout. He has a lot of people on his side. That's not the guy that you want to go toe-to-toe with if you're Hans Mullenkamp. So something happened between the two of them that Hans Mullenkamp, apparently, he had to have had the chance to smooth this over, Jeff, but then ego gets in. Dominic Cruz is the wrong dude. That's the wrong dude. You don't want to mess with him.
But you can't question his integrity or his honesty. You know, so what's your defense? Dominic Cruz is lying? No one's going to believe that. Dominic Cruz doesn't lie. You know, and I've been around him for a very long time in the sport. And look, I'm not friends with Dominic Cruz. That's not what I'm saying. But I've been around Dominic Cruz. I've been to Dominic Cruz after party after he won the WEC championship or defended the belt. I don't remember. I've been around Dominic Cruz, and anybody that's in the presence of Dominic Cruz knows really quick who he is and what he stands for. The guy's a good guy. And he has a ton of integrity, and apparently he doesn't mind putting himself out on a limb for the greater good. Props to Dom for doing that. That took a lot of guts to do that because of the pressure behind the scenes. But you can't do what Hans is doing. It's exploitation, and in a way, it's extortion. You know, and it's outside of the contract with Monster. And so Monster needs to sever that shit. Monster's got a huge brand name, man. They're known by everybody in the world. You don't need Hans.
Everybody in the world
bringing that down.
No, and I just actually messaged my buddy Orlando Jimenez, who's so I wanted him to put. He's sitting with Dominic. If you're sitting with Dom and you're hanging out, put this on. And Michael Bisping says he lost his sponsorship because he told Hans Mullenkamp they weren't friends, and he does seem like the creepy kind of dude, doesn't he, Hans?
Well,
when you look at him.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know Hans. I've never met Hans, so I can't speak to Hans. But what I can speak to is that I've covered this sport for almost 2 decades, and Dominic Cruz has been part of it all of that time. And Dominic Cruz doesn't make up shit about people. Dominic Cruz doesn't cause drama. Dominic Cruz is probably the most, and I mean this, the most professional in this entire sport. And so to have him come out and say that it holds incredible weight, holds incredible amount of weight.
I mean, he would be like the head of the fighters union if they had one. I mean, he's on that list. I mean, he would be the one who the fighters would vote to have him speak for fucking everyone. That's not the guy you want to cross. You're not.
No, I mean, like I said, there's no avenue to discredit Dominic Cruz. Hans has got himself in a situation where he is up against someone who is infallible in a way. There's no secrets. There's no skeletons in the closet to pop out. There's no failed drug test. There's no arrest. There's nothing there that you could attack Dominic Cruz in, which is why I'm glad Dominic's the one that came out, because he is sort of untouchable when it comes to his integrity and what he stands for. And so when Dominic comes out and says that, Monster Energy needs to raise their eyebrow and say, holy shit, Dominic Cruz is talking about Hans. And then they need to get on the phone with Hans and say, what the hell's going on?
Bisping's the other one. Bisping,
Yeah.
you're messing with the wrong dudes, man. Bisping, whether you like him or not. But I'm not, and Jeff the Mag, I'm not correlating his actions to Weinstein's at all. I said he's doing in some instances what a guy like Weinstein, if you want the deal and you want the money, you got to do this, you got to do that. So Michael Bisping chimed in and he said, hey, on the Believe You Me podcast, he goes, he revealed that Monster Energy stopped representing him after he refused to acknowledge Molenkamp as a friend. And he said, hey, that's what he does. And he tried it with me. All right, fuck it. I'm going to talk. I am going to say it. I'm driving out of Vegas one night after commentating, and he calls me up and he's going, Mike, we're friends, aren't we? And I say, no, we're not. Okay. I've known you for a long time, but we never hung out. We're business associates, and that's okay. Do you know what I mean? Stop dangling this friend card. We're not friends. We're business associates. That's it. That's all we need to be. We don't get together. Our families don't hang out. Shortly after that, I wasn't with a certain company anymore. All of a sudden, I am fucking broke. Okay. Thank you, Hans, Michael said. So interesting, right? So I got the I got some interesting thoughts on this, and look, again, Bisping's one example, but Dominic Cruz, again, he'd be the head of the fighter union. He's the guy. I mean, all the associations want him on board. He's associated with the new company that's competing to be at the top of the rules on amateur MMA. I know that because of my buddy OJ Orlando Jimenez. We were with Team USA together over the summer in 2016. For UMAF, when we fought against the rest of the world in the World Championships at International Fight Week. And ironically, that's actually the same week that I met Suzette Howe, Dom's mother, who's an author of a book, Broken Before Battle. We talked the whole night. She never even told me who she was until the very end. And we've stayed in touch and, been in contact ever since then. But I found it to be interesting. And this is one of the first things that OJ messaged to me right after the fights that night was, Dana White's comment on social media about this guy, Hans Molenkamp, which I had read at the time and thought it was hilarious because Dana doesn't play around. But at the end of the day, man, you don't mess with a Dominic Cruz. Not only is he the guy that all the fighters would have speak for them, he's so eloquent. He's got the platform. For some reason, this guy wants to make himself the attraction. He wants to be the fighter's friend. And, look, if he's using it to further himself and to benefit his own, growth in his own business, and he's helping the fighters and he gets helped in the meantime, that's all great. But for this relationship to go the way that it did, and for Dominic Cruz to say the things that he said, Jeff, we've talked about this, impeccable. Dominic Cruz doesn't do anything without thinking about it 100 times. I've interviewed him about commentating. The interview that I did with him about his abilities as a commentator should be used at a broadcasting school to teach aspiring broadcasters how to do it right. That's Dominic Cruz. Everything he says is calculated. Everything he says is measured. He knew exactly where he was going. And for him to have the guts and the balls and really, I think the backbone to do this, to help other fighters out, that's why you see what happened last night after the fight. And you saw, what Angela Hill did to have Dom's back. They're teammates, they're friends. So I think that at the end of the day, man, that's where Dom lies. He's an advocate. He's a be an ambassador for the sport. He is an ambassador of the sport. That's who you pissed off, Hans. That guy.
Well, I mean, Dominic saw something wrong and felt compelled to bring it to light, and we need people like that, man. I mean, goddamn, we need people like that so bad. And here's Dominic Cruz putting himself out there. I almost wish they wouldn't have asked Angela Hill about it because she's not in Dominic's position. She's not in Dominic's position, but she had to answer the question. But then again, had she not moved the Monster Energy drink, she wouldn't have been asked the question. But
the guy who asked her didn't even know that she's Dom's teammate. I mean,
yeah. Well,
it was just blind squirrel grabbed an acorn. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but Dominic Cruz is, I think he's doing the right thing. Will he benefit from it? Probably not. It's probably going to hurt Dominic Cruz financially in the long run. But that's what makes you believe the validity of it even more. Dominic Cruz is probably going to lose a sponsorship here. And but other fighters hopefully will be treated correctly and properly by Hans or whoever they replace Hans with in the future. So Dominic Cruz is a crusader. He's a crusader, Jim, for the damn
What is
fighters,
the
and he
status
should
of
be.
that contract? I wonder. Did
Which
Monster? I wonder if Monster did do anything with that. It'd be crazy to drop Dom over that right now. I haven't seen anything on it. Have you?
No, I wouldn't drop Dom right now, even if I expected, even if I wanted to, because it's going to be a PR nightmare. You drop him in a year quietly when nobody's looking.
Isn't it crazy how this is what we're talking about? That fight card last night, Jeff, was just not anything that we wanted to write home about. But Dominic Cruz has spoken to Monster Energy since then, but I can't imagine he's spoken to Hans Molenkamp.
Huh. No, and Monster may not want him speaking to Hans. Monster might have stepped in here and said, we're not going to have a go between. We'll work directly with you, which is the way maybe it should be. Look, I mean, like I said, we are talking about this because Angela Hill was asked about it, and this is a big news story, right? You have one of the biggest sponsors in the sports world, in the whole sports world, period. I mean, sponsors multi-million-dollar deals across the platform of sports across the world, being called out for something. And so it is a huge story. But look, I don't want to act like last night was all about this. We did have some great knockouts.
And you're there. And I just want to add one more thing, Jeff, before we pass. I think Dom and his crew are watching right now. Props to you, Dom, and props to everybody who's got your back on that, because this has been a business where fighters have been taken advantage of for way too long. The MMA side, especially, where boxers make way more money. I'm not here to be on a soapbox and advocate for anyone other than the people who deserve to be advocated for. And I always love it when someone takes a stand for something, because in that position, a guy like Hans Molenkamp, and I've said this with media relations throughout my career, you're there for media relations. You're there to help us do our job. Okay? Hans Molenkamp is there to help the fighters. He's more or less an advocate. He'll put the deals together, right, if I'm saying this correctly, but he'll be in charge of the entertainment. Hey, we're going to have a great weekend, guys. We're going to go to dinner here. We're going to hang out. Keep the client happy. Whenever people start making it about themselves, Jeff, is when they go wrong. And this takes me back. And I know, I think he's watching right now. I'll tell Dominic Cruz, the first time I interviewed him was at UFC in Los Angeles. And I believe it was when Henry fought Mighty Mouse and when Dillashaw fought Garbrandt in the LA fight. It was Cejudo Mighty Mouse 2 and Dillashaw Garbrandt 2. Anyway, long story short, I'm there for that fight, and I interviewed Dominic Cruz. And he said to me in that interview, if you're not in this for the love of the sport, if you're not in this to serve the people you're covering and talking about, you're doing it wrong. If you're not doing it for somebody other than yourself, you're doing it wrong. Selfless act by the Dominator, putting that out there and letting everybody know, because like you said, Jeff, so many other fighters don't have that voice and don't have that platform. And you got to love it when fighters who use that platform or who do have it, use it. So that would be my final takeaway. Props to Dom. That guy Hans needs to realize he's there to help the fighters. He's there to help his company, not to make himself famous off of what fighters are doing. And I believe everything would be all right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, like I said, I've through MMA Weekly Radio and then covering the sport for as long as I have, I've met Dom. We've had him on MMA Weekly Radio several times in the past. You can't question Dom's integrity. You know, and so that's why it's so profound that he came out and said something, because this isn't somebody who Hans can attack and degrade and lessen. You know, Dominic Cruz can't be touched on those kind of things, where other fighters might have the same grievance, but they can't say anything because there are angles to attack them and diminish what they say. You can't diminish what Dom is saying. And that's why I think it's perfect that he's the one that came out and said this, because other fighters just wouldn't have carried as much weight. You talked about Bisping. Bisping has said things about it. Bisping's kind of a different cat, right? Bisping's an incredibly honest guy. And we all know that about Michael Bisping, but Michael Bisping has other things going on, and Michael Bisping's kind of a character, and he's a polarizing figure. Dominic's not.
Yeah.
Like, who the hell doesn't like Dominic Cruz? You know, well, other than like TJ Dillashaw, you know, but I mean, the public, people outside of his division, who doesn't like Dominic Cruz, and who doesn't take what he says with a high regard of integrity. Even Dillashaw would do that. Yeah, and so
and when he said what he said about Keith Peterson, that was another thing. Like, I commend Dom for that. Cigarettes and beer, cigarettes and alcohol. Keith Peterson and the stoppage against Cejudo. That was
Yeah,
another
when he
one.
said that, I didn't know. Hey, look, like I said, Dom saw an injustice and pointed it out. But in my opinion, I feel like for Dom to have used this octagon, his post-fight speech and the post-fight press conference to put Hans on kind of a spotlight on what he's doing tells me that behind the scenes, the fighters, probably including Dom, have gone to Monster and gone to the UFC to address this problem, and the problem hasn't been addressed. So now they're talking about it publicly and going to use the court of public opinion to override this guy trying to extort them into friendships that he doesn't even have, and to do things that are not in your contract with Monster.
I am not even going to say anything after that, Jeff Cain. You are right on the money. Great job, brother, and appreciate all that. And hey, Dom, if you're watching, man, props to you, buddy. Honestly, what a great, great ambassador for the sport. And I do want to get an interview with Dominic Cruz here on MMA Weekly soon. We got Vitor Belfort coming out this week, Kelvin Gastelum the next week, the Karate Hottie Michelle Watterson right after that. And, man, would love to sit down with the Dominator. Might even have to take a trip to San Diego and do that. But Jeff, what an unbelievable topic. We got more stuff to talk about on the fight side. It's UFC Fallout on MMA Weekly. It's powered by CBD Emporium, featuring Level Select CBD. 3 levels for 3 levels of pain, anxiety, discomfort, go to sleep at night, all these amazing things you can do with this CBD. It has 0 THC, highest concentration of CBD, the best on the planet. And all you have to do right now, you're going to get 50% off. The code is MMA50. You're going to enter the code MMA50 at stayinthefightmma.com. MMA50 at stayinthefightmma.com. For Level Select CBD from CBD Emporium. Level Select CBD. Stay in the fight. Well, that was pretty cool. OJ let me know that they were watching and they were listening, but I just definitely think that was a good topic and one to get out there. The fighters are going to stay together on it, Jeff, and you're going to see some solidarity there. But I mean, look, it was a slow night in terms of what happened in the octagon. Not a lot got settled in terms of the rankings or the weight classes or title contention for anyone. Edwards is no more or less of a title contender as he was before last night. I guess the guy who really lost, two guys who really lost last night, and I mean, I believe they really hurt themselves. Eric Anders for sure, because that was a big-time impressive win that he was working on over a tough guy in Darren Stewart, the new gym at Fight Ready with Eddie Cha and the whole Fight Ready team. Eric Anders looking great, has a lot to build on after that performance, but an extremely, extremely disappointing outcome for him. And then the other fighter who lost a lot last night, besides Eric Anders, I believe, was Bilal Muhammad. Golden opportunity to get a win over a guy like Edwards, not happening again. So he lost the opportunity. Anders lost what was surely going to be a dominating win. But other than that, we don't really have. And Dan Ige is another one. Great performance by Ige. He's the only one on that fight card. Charles Jourdain, him too. Those two guys taking big steps forward. And I believe that, after that performance by Ige last night, Jeff, I mean, the loss to Cater last year, but he's right back one fight away from a potential title shot at featherweight.
Yeah, and look, Ryan Spann had a big
Ryan
big win.
Spann too. Yeah, Ryan Spann.
Like I said, because the fight card because the main card started with a DQ or not a DQ, a no contest because of the illegal knee, and then ended with an eye poke, no contest. We kind of forgot what all the great things that happened in between. There were 3 knockouts in a row. There was a 16-second knockout, a 22-second knockout, a 71-second knockout. I mean, there were great things that happened last night on the fight card. Angela Hill's performance against Ashley Yoder, she looked phenomenal. There are some people that are going to jump in the rankings a little bit, and oddly enough, it's somebody we haven't really talked about in Mathias, because he was ranked number 12th before the UFC cut him in 2018. And for him to get that split decision win last night, he's going to jump back in the rankings, maybe as high as 10 or 11, which we kind of fell under the radar because he was unranked heading into this fight. But when he was cut by the UFC in 2018, he was ranked 12. He got 2 wins outside of the UFC. Now he's back in the UFC, got that split decision win last night. I don't know if I agreed with the decision, but either way, he got the W. And so he's going to jump into the rankings. Ige, he's going to jump a little bit, but I don't think he passes Josh Emmett, and then when we talk about Spann, his loss to Jimmy Walker means that he can't move up higher than that. And so while big things kind of happen, there's no place for them to go.
Well, they do, like a lot of times they'll pass someone that they lost to, right? You'll pass someone in the rankings who you've lost to. It happens time and time again, over and over. I mean, you've lost to people and you pass them in the rankings because time goes by and the recency bias and all that stuff. But Man, I just thought, I was, and I'm glad you mentioned Ryan Spann, Jeff, because that was a very impressive performance by him. Very impressive win, and I was very, happy to see him get that. And then the other one with Dan Ige. So Spann and Ige helped themselves the most. Jordan, I mean, he's knocking on the door of being ranked. He's knocking on the door of being ranked. That was a really impressive performance by him.
Yeah, I mean, there were some really, like I said, there were some good performances last night, and Hani Yahya with his submission. I mean, there were good things that happened. The night of fights, looking back, because we were on air live, we were having a great time, and then the main card started, and we're like, oh crap, Eric Anders looked great, and then got that knee. And that was an unfortunate situation because the doctor comes in and says he can't continue, and so we all question, could he not continue because the damage inflicted before the knee or the damage from the knee? And that's probably going to be debated for a long time. Either way, the doctor has a responsibility to himself, and he didn't let him continue. But I don't think Anders looked bad. I don't think he drops. He did not get his win bonus, which is the biggest thing, and he mentioned that in the post-fight press conference. He's only going home with half a check. But I felt like he looked great. He just made a mistake, and that's such a timing deal for his part. And then in the main event, man, we got to fix the gloves. We've got to fix the gloves. That's what's before somebody loses their damn eye. We have to fix the gloves. Surely we can do that. We're landing rovers on Mars, right? We're sending satellites up to intersect with asteroids and shit, and we can't get the gloves right in MMA. Come on.
It's a conundrum. It really is. I mean, with the takedowns and the grappling, there's got to be something, man. We can get a vaccine for COVID in less than a year. We can do that, right?
You think so? Let's get a bunch of fighters together with the glove companies, man, and let's put out a bunch of protocols or prototypes rather, and then have them run them, and run it across all the fighters. Let the fighters be the ones to decide, particularly the grapplers, because they're the ones that's going to complain the most, right? Because you need that open hand for the grappling situation. So boom, just start getting a bunch of jiu-jitsu guys to start trying out these gloves and see which ones they like the best in a grappling situation. Let's implement them. UFC buys them up. Some company out there makes a ton of money. The sport's safer. Fights aren't getting stopped because of eye pokes, and the world, all of the problems are solved, Jim.
I don't know how we can ever get past that. I mean, like right there, Jeff, you just closed the whole thing. Showstopper, drop the mic right there, Jeff Cain. But let me say this, man. I was really disappointed to see the Anders fight go the way it did. I think he's looking like a guy who's on the upswing and going to, I think, push his way up in the rankings. I like what he's doing at Fight Ready. I like his new coaches. He sacrificed everything. I mean, you take a guy away from his family. There's something about the character building there where, his family's not there and he's just training and he's just eating right and he's just sleeping it off and he's not eating the sugar and the alcohol's not there. I mean, just to see an athlete make that kind of recommitment on top of the commitment they've already made is amazing. So I look for big things from Anders. He looked great last night. But moving forward, other than, that, Jeff, I mean, we really didn't get, correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't get much of a read on Leon Edwards. I mean, no fight since 2019. We don't know much more than we did before last night, which sucks because we've been dying to get him in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was winning the fight, but the fight was early, right? I mean, it was early in the fight. That just because you're winning a fight, I mean, like I said, if I had $1 for every fight that a fighter was winning and they lost, man, I wouldn't be doing this for a living. I'd be out there with Hans, flying around.
And his body's amazing. Like I was talking about this last night, and if you were watching last night, Jeff dropped off and we couldn't get him back on, so I had to close the show by myself. And I'm sitting there talking about Edwards' body. And from the literally just like right at the bottom of the rib cage down, including the legs and every other part of his body, he looks like a damn flyweight, literally. And then his chest and his shoulders and his biceps and everything from here is like a light heavyweight. His body is proportioned so crazy for this weight class, Jeff. Upper body, everything up top.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you brought up in our preview show, he doesn't take a lot of damage, and he was able, and we saw that in the little bit of the fight that we saw last night. I mean, I felt like that fight was going, it wasn't quite like the Anders fight, because I felt like the Anders fight could have possibly been stopped before the knee. The main event wasn't that way, but I felt like the momentum was clearly in Leon's favor. But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. We've seen fighters knock out guys with 3, Overeem with 4 seconds left to go in the round gets knocked out in a fight that he won every second leading up to that. So I don't want to say that Leon was going to win that fight. I am confident Edwards was going to win, or Anders was going to win his fight, but I'm not sure about Leon yet. But yeah, Belil lost a big opportunity. Thankfully, there wasn't long-term damage done to his eye, and so he'll get to come back and fight. But he's not going to get the number 3 ranked guy in that division. Not at all. He's going to have to beat like 5 people before he gets that opportunity.
Yeah, Bilal Muhammad, that just is something that fell into his lap, and unfortunately, you hate to see it happen, but sometimes in life, you get a golden opportunity. Shit doesn't go your way on the surface. Time to go back to the drawing board and figure it out. It's all happening for you. Get right back on it, stay positive, and it'll all work out. Meanwhile, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my buddy Orlando Jimenez, OJ. I was talking to him off the air a little bit, and he's with Dom all the time and that whole crew out there, but he does a lot for amateur MMA. He's got a company called Fight Rope. TheFightRope.com is his website, so check that out. He's the CEO and founder, and he's just always he's that dude, Jeff. He became a cop. He graduated college and graduated law school. He became a fighter on the U.S. national team. He became a college wrestler. He's just that dude. He's just that dude, and I love my buddy OJ, so I wanted to give him a shout because he definitely has been there for me in my career, and he was watching, and he said we did a good job talking about that incident with Hans and Dom. But dude, it's crazy because we don't have any answers on Leon Edwards. He's now, everyone wants to see him fight Colby. People are still going to say he hasn't fought in 2 years or fought the big name. The other people are going to say he doesn't deserve a title shot now. Colby's going to say he doesn't want to fight him. We got nothing. We got nothing out of last night's fight card other than Dan Ige. Dan Ige moving up and Ryan Spann moving up and Charles Jourdain. Those 3. I think Jourdain, you got to vote. Would you vote him in as a ranked fighter? Charles Jourdain at featherweight?
I'm going to have to look at it, man, and see who's at the bottom of that featherweight division. I'm not against it. Just
I'll tell you right
usually
now.
when you ask me, I know. Well, go ahead. I got to pull up his record as well.
So Ige is number 9, Jeremy Stevens 8, Emmett 7, Cater 6. All right, that's a tough top 10. Sadiq Yusuf 10, Arnold Allen 11, Shane Burgos 12, Bryce Mitchell 13, Edson Barboza 14. Member coming down from lightweight, and Mavsar Evloev.
God, I don't know, man. I've got to pull up Jourdain's record and see his quality of wins. Because when you're talking about that 13 and 14 and 15, there are usually 3 or 4 people that could slide into that spot, and you just got to weigh the intangibles, right? The power of opponents, the quality of the wins, the way in which they won. It's going to take. I have until tomorrow to put in my rankings. I'm probably going to use every bit of it to figure out what I'm going to do with him. But like I said, Mathias is the one that's going to jump from unranked possibly all the way to 10th or 11th in the flyweight division. We were shocked that there were flyweights not ranked, on the roster when they threw that bout out there. But I don't know, man. It's a hard question to answer right now. Well, what I mean by it is I need more time to answer that question because there's too many variables to compare and to line up to see if that guy gets ranked or not, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of that goes in there. And then Ryan Spann, obviously, he's a guy who is, ranked down toward the bottom anyway. But, he's talking about fighting like an Anthony Smith coming up. But he's at, where was he? 13. And he wanted Crute too. So.
Yeah, he's going to jump to number 11th. I don't think he passes number 10, Johnny Walker, because Walker holds a recent win over Ryan Spann. And so I feel like that's where he's going to stop, is at 11. And at the same time, though, Misha doesn't drop really any further than 12 because he has that win over number 12, Jimmy Crute. And so Crute just gets pushed to 13, basically. These are tight divisions. These are real tight divisions.
Well, after last night, and you in Holland, that could do a little bit. You got Kelvin Gastelum and Uriah Hall in that mix with Chris Weidman. So that's the bottom half of that top 10 at middleweight with Vettori fighting Till. They're 2 top 5 fighters, and Cannonier doesn't have an opponent right now, but you got the Whitaker Costa fight, and then Izzy's coming back down after the fight against Jan Blachowicz. So you've got that one to look forward to on the welterweight side, Jeff, and on the middleweight side. I don't know that Holland or Brunson can really move up all that much. Brunson's going to pass Hermanson with a win. He's not passing Vettori or Till. in the hype leading up to that fight. But on the welterweight side, it was a shot for Bilal Muhammad. They needed an opponent. They just wanted to get Edwards in there. It's not the ending anybody wanted, but at the end of the day, it doesn't count against him, and he's going to move on. So who does he move on with? I want to see him fight Colby or Burns. Those are the only two that make any sense to me. Maybe a Wonder Boy, but if you're really looking to push him, and he's at number 3 right now, you don't fight anyone below him. Look, he stayed above Masvidal and Wonder Boy at 3 without fighting since 2019. It's a title fight or it's Colby. I don't even know if I'd put Burns in there with him right now. It's got to be Colby or it's got to be a title fight.
Yeah. Now, had he had a really great, impressive performance last night, then I still don't think he passes anybody in the rankings, but he's going to have a bigger argument that, man, I could slip into a title fight. Now I feel like he has to take a fight before a title fight. And the UFC wants to put him in there with Colby. It's just going to be a matter of, can they get those two fighters to come to an agreement to get in there, because both of those guys are sitting in prime spot for a title fight. And so do you want to ruin that right now? Well, I think with the way that division's working out with the Ultimate Fighter and everything, they're going to have to fight. People are going to have everybody in that division is going to have to fight one more time before we know who's going to get the title shot. And so you might as well get in there and pick your opponent early. Pick your opponent early before somebody else ends up picking your opponent for you.
All right, so if Kamaru is going to fight Masvidal and they're doing the Ultimate Fighter, that ties it up for the whole year. Colby's got to fight somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Colby and Wonderboy, Colby and Chiesa, Colby and Edwards. It's got to be Colby and Edwards, and I believe Gilbert Burns should fight Wonderboy. I think that should be next, because Wonderboy can rocket himself right back in there and get a win over Burns, or Burns can cement himself up there at the top. So I want to see Wonderboy take on who did I just say? Who did I just say?
You said Wonder Boy, and I don't have the rankings pulled up, man. Who did you?
No, who did I just say? Wonder Boy. Who did I just say?
We said Colby and Edwards, the champion, and Masvidal, and you want him to fight.
Burns. Gilbert Burns.
Gilbert Burns. Yes.
Yeah.
We were running out of names. That's the
Sundays.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the UFC is going to do with that division. They've got a lot of options in there, but nobody seems to be willing to take a fight and lose their position in line. But they're going to have to with the Ultimate Fighter. The UFC is going to end up picking the opponents, and they're going to have to take a fight. That's just the way that's going to work out. Unless, like I said, we don't know what's going on the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, how many times have the coaches changed mid-season? How many times have things happened? I don't know. I still say Wonder Boy is the wild card in that division because he has a big name and he's on a little win streak right now. And so he has an opportunity to kind of sit back and watch these Edwards and fights play out. Edwards and Covington and all these fights play out. And he might be sitting in the prime spot because the people in front of him could lose. And then he's just all of a sudden sitting there third himself with a bigger name than some of these guys. So I like where he is sitting in that division, because at the end of the day, yes, it's about who deserves it, but it is also about selling tickets, entertainment value, and Wonder Boy is one of the most popular fighters in that division.
I love Wonder Boy, and I would love to see him get another title shot this year. I just think that, right now with Colby, and I mean, look, you can't argue with giving Masvidal another title shot after he stepped in on 6 days and lost 20 pounds. You can't argue with his popularity, what he's done for the company, #1 pay-per-view of the year last year. You got to give Masvidal that fight. I don't have a problem with him getting it over Colby. I think if you're doing it just on merit and just on the storyline alone, it is Colby. But because it's Masvidal and you're trying to build, Kamaru into a star, I don't have a problem. But I do want to see Colby Covington in action this year. I do want to see him sell a fight. I do want to see him run his mouth. I do want to see him, I don't know that the storyline is there with Leon Edwards. Colby and Wonder Boy would be an amazing buildup. How do you talk shit about Wonder Boy? Colby would find a way. Michael Chiesa, not a big enough name. Do you even want to fight him if you're Wonder Boy right now? No. I just think that division is there's we didn't Edwards, Muhammad. You have Brunson and Holland, and Jeff, this one coming up, Brunson's become that gatekeeper. Brunson's become that guy that you have to beat in order to get that title shot or to be in that category. He's become a gatekeeper. I mean, Izzy beat him on the way up, right? I mean, think about it. Think of all the people who have had to beat Derek Brunson to get to the top of that division, and he's become that guy. Either he beats you and keeps himself up near the top, or you beat him and announce your name as a contender. They tried to get, Ian Heinisch to beat him. They tried to get Shabazian to beat him, Elias Theodorou. All these fighters, they're trying to get these guys to make a name off Brunson like Adesanya did, right? Because there's a guy there. He lost to Whitaker. He lost to Anderson Silva, and he was 16-3. He beat Uriah Hall, right? He hadn't lost a fight since Yoel Romero all the way back in 2014. And that was in the UFC. The other losses he had before that were Strikeforce. But he lost that 4 out of 6 stretch with Whitaker, Anderson Silva, Jacare, and Izzy. He's beaten everybody else, man. He's beaten Uriah Hall. He's beaten Lyoto. He's beaten all these guys. And now Kevin Holland, who had the huge year last year, gets a shot. Say, hey, is Kevin Holland a legit contender? We're going to find out right now. And Kevin Holland, of course, famous. And I have a clip of myself talking to Dana at the press conference when he said, hey, call Big Mouth. See if Big Mouth will take it. Call Big Mouth from the Contender Series. Well, a big opportunity for quote-unquote Big Mouth next week to put himself in a top contender position in the middleweight division.
Yeah, I mean, it just keeps going. We've been event after event after event since the beginning of February. We're getting ready to run down to the last 2 weeks, Jim, before we finally get a week of 8 straight weeks of events. We are 2 weeks away from the UFC 260 pay-per-view. And like you said, next week we have Brunson versus Holland, number 7 and number 10 middleweights. That's going to be big. Man, this has been a crazy ride. There's been so many events since the beginning of February, but they all just kind of blend in together. Like you could ask me what event did this guy win on? I couldn't even tell you, but I do know that they won.
No, and I do want to say something about if you're looking for a busy fighter, and you're talking about Kevin Holland, he's fought 13 times in 3 years, 5 times, 5 wins in a calendar year. That ties a UFC record in 2020. So 5 wins last year. This fight coming up is huge for him because when you're looking at the rankings in this division, man, obviously this is a fight where he's at 10. He wants to be up there in that Hermanson, Vittori, Gastelum range, and this is the fight for him to win to do that. He's got to win this fight and beat Brunson to be in that range. Then he gets a Gastelum or a Uriah Hall or somebody or if Weidman beats Hall, you get a guy like Weidman in your next fight. You bump it up a level, and your money and everything goes up a level. If you beat Brunson.
He climbs to another tier, right? Right now, Kevin Holland's still in the really good prospect position, although he's a little more proven than just like a prospect new to the organization. But he hasn't jumped up into that where we consider him on the cusp of being a contender. And that's what he's getting ready to enter. If he wins next week, then all of a sudden he is not in the title picture, but he's one step outside of it, one injury away from being in it.
No, and we've been spoiled, man, because now last night's fight card with Edwards and Muhammad and this one coming up with Holland and Brunson, no real title implications. I mean, we've had from the start of the year, with Max Holloway and Chiesa and Magny and Poirier, McGregor and Usman and Burns and Blades and Lewis and Rosenstrike and Gahn. And, all these fights just had so much impact and so much fallout in every division. But these the one last night and this one coming up next week, not as much. But, Jeff, we turn the corner, and I keep watching all the old fights, man. Stipe and Ngannou 2 is right around the corner, man. And, Volkanovsky, Ortega on that card. I don't know which fight I'm looking forward to more. Both of those are really, I can't. Sugar Sean against Thomas Almeida, Tyron Woodley and Vicente Luque. That's a hell of a card coming up.
It is a hell of a card, and it does have a lot of implications in a lot of different divisions. Where this one, I felt like this card wasn't as bad as maybe people think that it was because of the way that it ended, and it was kind of an anticlimactic ending to the night. But heading into that, man, we had tons of knockouts. We had a bunch of great fights last night. It's just that the event fell flat. It's like the closing act. All their damn instruments broke and the lights went out. And you're like, crap. But we do look forward to the next event, man, with Brunson and them. We're looking ahead, and then the week after that, we got the big pay-per-view, and then Jim, we get a week off where there's no event.
What are we gonna do? We still.
I'm gonna go.
That's it.
I'm probably gonna go start fights out in public and watch people throw down, and so I can comment on them.
I think that'd be amazing. I want to go with you when you do that. I can see you getting that done. I can see you being really good at that. Hey, you guys mind fighting? So I got something to do on board here. You'll have people fighting.
Yeah, and I'll commentate it, and I will tell each other what they did wrong and what they did good, and then maybe promote him. No, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I'm probably going to sleep, Jim. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sleep.
Where does Stipe's legacy go from here, man? Does he need to even beat anybody else? He doesn't, right? I mean, I'm just looking at this and I'm like, why does Stipe? He's in that Amanda Nunes territory. He does need to beat Jones. He does need to beat Jones when Jones comes up. But if he loses to Ngannou and then he never fights again, his legacy is so cemented, man. But I do think Stipe for sure wants to win this Ngannou fight and fight Jones, and then maybe that might be it for him. But what else can the guy possibly do? 6-time heavyweight champ. Are you kidding me? 6 times, Jeff.
Oh, I mean, yeah, he's fought. Yeah, he's a 2-time heavyweight champion. And then,
well,
yeah,
no, I'm
like
talking about
said,
every time he's competed for the belt and won.
Yeah.
6 times.
Yeah, he's got 6 belts. He has 6 belts on his wall or his trophy case or whatever. Yeah, Stipe's legacy is the greatest heavyweight of all time right now. The problem with that is that the heavyweight division that's not somebody's going to come along to rival that. And so I think what Stipe is kind of wanting to do with the next couple of years is solidify his legacy and put himself out there a little further for somebody to catch up, where it's going to take a long time to catch up to Stipe in the heavyweight division. I think kind of what John Jones did in the light heavyweight division. I mean, how long do you have to fight in the light heavyweight division before you pass what John Jones did? Forever. And I think Stipe is about to try to do that over the next couple of years.
No, and we talked about this ad nauseum with all those fights that we saw and people coming up in the rankings and dropping in the rankings. And, you know, obviously the big shakeup with JDS and Overeem gone from the heavyweight division. And that was something we didn't expect to see. But, Jeff, in all those weeks when we saw Lewis and Blades and we saw Rosenstruik and Gone and we saw Volkov and Reem, and was Reem going to make another title run? JDS didn't take a short notice fight, but that division has really – the top of that division has really cleared itself up. You got Stipe and you got Ngannou coming up. The rest of them fall in line, you know, after Lewis and Blades and Gane and Volkov, the way that it should be. Then you have, you know, Usman and Burns with the welterweight title fight, and now Leon Edwards has fought. So that division's kind of taking care of itself. The lightweights with, you know, Poirier and McGregor and Michael Chandler and Hooker were right before that. Now you notice it's the middleweights, man. Izzy went up to 205 to try to take the belt from Jan, right? But now the middleweights, you got Whitaker and Costa coming up. In the week after that, Jeff, you got Vettori and Darren Till. And now it's going to start being 85 that shakes itself out.
Yeah, man. I mean, this spring has been a crazy year for because last year was such a strange sports year, not just in mixed martial arts, but all kinds of sports. And we didn't see champions defending belts. We saw teams even in other sports kind of not playing like they normally do. You know, race car drivers who are legends not even winning races anymore because everything changed. The whole protocol changed. We threw a monkey wrench in everybody's routine, and we see people like Kevin Holland who thrived in that environment. And then you see other people who did not so much thrive in it, and then a lot of people who just set out. Right. And so now we're seeing all these top ranked guys in all these divisions of the champions defend belts. And so, and that it's going to play out all this year. This year is going to be a phenomenal year for fighting, where last year was an okay year. I mean, yes, last year was good, especially we had some crazy shit go down on Fight Island and everything. But this year, I feel like it's more of we'll find out where the divisions are, where everybody fits in the division, and we can look ahead to what matchups that the UFC is probably going to make and who's on the rise and who's on the decline. I feel like that's what this year is going to be mostly.
Yeah, and we see a lot of great fights lining themselves up. I mean, look at Cyril Gane. He's the guy I looked at heavyweight. I said he's the one by the end of the year who's going to have that title shot. Islam Makhachev at lightweight. You know, he's the guy who on the outside looking in right now in terms of rankings, but he's the guy there. You might have a title shot. Kevin Holland has that opportunity at middleweight next week. It starts to shake itself out with a big win for him to get a finish over Brunson. Then he's looking at a pretty good fight the next time out. Gastelum needs another fight. I've got an interview that I just did with him that's dropping here soon on MMA Weekly. And then, Jeff, I have to ask you before we wrap it up. Out of the 2 fights at the top of that division for Izzy, doesn't have one, but Robert Whitaker and Paulo Costa, which fight you looking forward to more? Which one will have the most legitimate number 1 contender coming out of it, and why?
I'm looking. I want to see Whitaker and Izzy do it again, just because you know Whitaker was the former champion, you know, and I felt like he approached that fight in a way He tried to get Izzy out of there, man, and I felt like he rushed
Yeah.
a little bit. I think that he's going to watch the tape. Well, look, that's Izzy does that to people, man. I mean, I don't want to take away from Izzy because Robert Whittaker did something out of character. But what I do think is that Robert Whittaker is going to look at the tape and realize he can make huge adjustments to be more successful. And then Izzy's going to have to adjust in the fight to the adjustments that Whittaker's going to make before the fight. And that fight to me is just so interesting because I feel like Whittaker is a difficult out. I felt like he fought.
Do you feel like he's
Izzy
that much better than Paulo?
Yeah,
You're talking like he's going to run right through Paulo. Is that what you think Rob's going to do?
If Rob fights the way he normally does, yes, I think
Yeah.
he's gonna walk through Paulo Costa. Yes.
Yeah, me too.
But Costa is a heavy hitter. And so don't sleep on that guy. He can hit you, and Robert Whittaker can go to sleep. There's no question about that.
That head
Whittaker,
kick
I feel
he
like
kicked
the better
Yoel
fighter.
was impressive.
Yeah.
When Paulo kicked Yoel in the head, and Yoel's got a head made out of granite. But I mean, that's interesting right there. I mean, you think about it, and you've got, I think Rockhold's going to make another run there, and Weidman's looking to make another run. That's good for the sport. I don't really think Chris is much of a title threat now. The guy I like there, I've talked about Cyril Gane and I've talked about Islam. The dark horse that I like is Vettori. I love Marvin Vettori, man. There's a guy who I think could make a run and be a champion in that division.
Yeah, I mean, he gave Izzy the toughest fight to date in that division. I say that. Jan gave Izzy the toughest fight to date, but as a middleweight, that's who gave him the toughest fight. And he has that storyline, and so I feel like he just has to win, and the story writes itself for Vettori. He's sitting in a really good spot, and that's also a fight I would really love to see. But that's just how I feel about it. Paulo Costa could prove me wrong, and maybe I am wrong. We'll find out. But I want to see Whittaker and Izzy rematch, man. I just do. I feel like Whittaker poses the biggest threat.
Interesting, man. Yeah, and that division's going to play itself out too. Izzy's waiting for the winner of probably Whittaker and Costa. If Vettori just crushes Darren Till and Costa's not impressive, but somehow manages to beat Whittaker, then I could see Vettori getting the shot because of the way he fought Izzy the first time. But I still think he's a fight away or so. So I can't wait, man. I mean, look, you're going to start getting the answers in that division now next year. And I mean, I could do these Fallout shows. I could do it all day, all night, man. It's a lot of fun, but I look forward to that fight. Obviously, Jeff, we got the big pay-per-view in a couple of weeks here. You mentioned we get the weekend off, which is kind of cool for us. But man, I just, the thought of what it's going to be like when Stipe and Ngannou are about ready to throw down, when the breath leaves your body and you can hear a pin drop in the building, but no matter where you are, you could hear a pin drop. The anticipation, the way that you feel when guys that size get into an octagon and are looking to do damage to one another. There's nothing like it, and we get it again in a couple of weeks with the heavyweight fight. And Jeff, I'll say this too, man. Volkanovsky and Ortega, that could be the fight out of every fight that I've been looking forward to, all of them in recent weeks. That might be the one I circled the most, T-City and Volko. That's a scrap, dude.
That's a hell of a fight. Yeah, that's fight of the night written all over it. Tons of implications. Look, man. I've seen tons of fights. Whenever I feel like I have to pee while the fighters are walking out, then it's a big fight. And I know, and I hate to say that, it's the honest to God truth. Man, I'll be sitting there. I would have just used the bathroom, come back in, and Stipe and Francis be walking in the octagon. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta pee. You just get excited, man. You get the butterflies in your stomach, and not every fight does that. And so I really relish when a fight does that to me because it's sort of rare now. Well, that's one of those fights. That is definitely one of those fights.
Man, unbelievable, right? We're looking at that division too. I mean, every week we're saying a different division's better, but every week the UFC's putting another one on display. And I mean, you look at welterweight, you look at lightweight. Featherweight is the one no one's talking about because everyone's going bantamweight and lightweight. Which one's better? Featherweight, you don't want to sleep on featherweight, man. When you look at the top of the division, right, at featherweight, Jeff, and I understand why everyone's in love with and retired. I think that's fun with Volko and the way Max is fighting right now. And then you got T-City, looked amazing. You never know what you're going to get with Zabit. When's he going to fight again? And what's that going to look like? Yair Rodriguez, the zombie. I mean, Dan Ige looked great. He wants to fight the zombie. You still have Jeremy Stevens who can put people to sleep. That division is legit, man. It doesn't have as many fighters top to bottom as some of the other ones do right now in terms of, top competitors. But the top 5 in that division, with the big wild card being Zabit, that's one of the biggest reasons I'm saying this, is because if he can live up to the potential that he's shown, that gives you an elite world champion level fighter there. So when you look at Max and you look at T-City, you look at Volko and you look at Zabit, any of those guys could be the champion in that division.
Oh, that's a fun division, right? I mean, a lot of these divisions, man, are really top heavy, but they always are. But they're also packed in the middle. It's a weird situation right now because things are so tight in some of these divisions, man, that people are going to have to take fights that they aren't going to want to take, and that their managers aren't going to want them to take because it's too big of a risk, and you're sitting in a really prime spot. But we're going to see that play out this year, particularly in the welterweight division where they're going to be doing the Ultimate Fighter, and then some of these other divisions are kind of held up a little bit depending on the division that we're talking about, and so we're going to see some big fights that aren't for titles, enormous fights that aren't for titles.
Yeah, we are. And just amazing shit, man. I mean, every week it just keeps getting better and better, Jeff. It literally keeps getting. If you're looking at the fight card for next week and you're looking for, something to maybe throw down on, check out the odds, have a lot of fun with that, make it a little more interesting. We have some new sponsors coming on with the shows, and we still have CBD Emporium and Level Select. We're going to be giving you prizes. We're going to be, hooking you up with a whole bunch of stuff to help you make your life better, guys. And, it's exciting, Jeff. I can't, for some reason, something tells me, and I don't think he's a champion level fighter. I really don't. And I really do like him, but something tells me that Holland's going to get Brunson. Something tells me.
Holland, man, I mean, he's unpredictable and he's a dangerous guy. And he's on the rise, it's a very interesting fight, man. I mean, Holland, like I said, did we give him Fighter of the Year last year? I know that he was a candidate because he just came in and fought so many times and kept getting crazy knockouts.
Hasn't lost since the Reyes Weidman card, October 2019, when Brendan Allen subbed him. But he's 21-5. He's coming off 5 wins in a row, including Joaquin Buckley, Darren Stewart, Jacare. I mean, some pretty big wins in there. Anthony Hernandez.
Yeah, and those are knockout of the year candidate in the Jacare from his back, basically sitting on his backside, knocked out Jacare who was on his knees from the bottom. And like I said, man, I mean, that just does not happen. That was so crazy. Yeah, man, Holland could be a big star this year. Like last year, he kind of, was a big splash in the pan and said, "Hey, look, I'm here. You pay attention." And this year, he gets to try to establish himself as a legitimate contender. And man, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't disagree with you. I don't know, man. I'm going to have to really watch a lot of tape for that one. I got to watch a lot of tape for that one. But I like Holland in it, man. Holland finds a way to win. I'll say that. Holland finds a way to win.
And Brunson's a beast, man. He's a wrestler. He's a tough dude, without a doubt. So he's not, by any means, I'm not saying that as, anything about him or down on him, but I just really, something tells me Holland's going to win that fight.
Yeah. I mean, somebody's got to win these fights. So whenever we pick a winner, it's not like we're down on the guy that we're not picking. It's just somebody's got to pick. We got to pick a winner.
No, I just have a feeling about Holland. The way he was able to talk himself, and Dana said, "Call Big Mouth," and the way he fights 5 times, dude. 5 times, and he wins all 5. I mean, there's just sometimes you're on that magic run,
Mm-hmm. Oh, man, and while you're young and healthy, fighting often is a good thing for the bank account, and I agree with what Holland's doing, man. He's not sitting
he has
out.
11 knockouts in his 21 wins. He has 11 knockouts and 6 submissions. He finishes fights.
Yeah, and the talking wasn't a big deal. Now that he's backing it up, Dana didn't like him talking on the Ultimate Fighters or on the Dana White Contender Series rather, but his talking and stuff. Now that he's backed it up and had a knockout of the year candidate and everything, the talking's perfect, right?
Yeah, man, it really is. It really is. Man, this is crazy. When you start looking at who fought who and who has wins over who, I'm looking at Brendan Allen now. Looking at Brendan Allen because, obviously he has a win over Kevin Holland. And then he's got a win over Kyle Dawkins, but a loss to Sean Strickland. It's interesting when you start looking at these divisions and who fought who and who beat who. And watching old fights, Jeff, watching old fights all the time. We have a treasure trove of footage. Our vault, we're about to launch a series coming up here soon on MMA Weekly also, where we're looking in the vault, looking at the old stuff, man, from the days of way back. But I mean, look, it seems so long ago when Vittori fought Hermanson December 5th. It wasn't that long ago, but everything just starting to shake itself out. And, you know, we're going to have some belts start to change hands here soon. We're going to start seeing some guys losing title fights. It didn't happen all last year, Jeff, but you know, you're going to see some new champions here very soon. Gilbert Burns wasn't able to get it done. You know what I mean? And Aljamain Sterling in a way that, you know, nobody wanted to see him get it done. Adesanya couldn't get it done, but you're going to start seeing some belts change hands here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which one's the first one? I'm going to put you on the spot. Which belt do you think is going to change hands first?
I mean, I'm picking Stipe in that heavyweight fight, but man, Francis Ngannou makes me nervous, man. And I think he makes everybody nervous, right? I think Stipe's a little nervous even, man. When you see Francis Ngannou over there and you see his resume and his highlight clips, oh my God. I'm trying to think which one will change hands first.
Who are these guys? I can't see.
It won't be Usman. It won't be Izzy. Jan just defended his against Izzy. Yeah, man, it might be the heavyweight belt.
I think it's going to be T-City. I think Ortega beats Volko.
Yes, that's the other one. I was running through title fights and I skipped through. Yes, that's a good one. I don't know. You know, I don't know. That's a tough fight. That's a tough fight. I'll say the heavyweight belt, although I am picking Stipe to win that fight. It's just that, man, if Francis touches you, I don't even think Francis has to land cleanly, you know, to finish fights. He just has to kind of halfway land clean, and you're in a world of trouble. But yeah, I think the T-City is a good pick, man. That's a good pick.
My eyes are really going. I'm trying to see who this is. This is some cool footage. Who's that rolling around in there, Jeff?
Looks like Vanderlei on top.
Is that Vanderlei and Shogun? I thought I saw in there too. Is that Paulo?
Yeah, it looks like
no.
Juan he's wearing his Vanderlei shirt. So that's old days, man. That's old school.
When we were talking about the treasure trove of footage.
Yeah, there's Shogun. This must be some pride footage
Shogun
from Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's our treasure trove of footage we were talking about. So, yeah, some big things coming up, man. And when you look at the pound for pound and you look at the different divisions and the title contenders, I definitely think the first belt to change hands is going to be featherweight. I think T-City gets it done. I think Stipe is going to beat Ngannou, and I think Jones and Stipe is going to be all set up for the summer.
Yeah.
If y'all haven't subscribed yet, you need to be eye-poked, tested for the new gloves by the rocket scientists. There you go. Thanks, Casey. We love Casey. Didn't Casey tell us that we remind her of Eli Gold?
She
Casey
mentioned
Evans.
Eli Gold, and then you asked everybody who Eli Gold was. And nobody knew. Which right. I think is great, being a Kentucky fan. I'm glad that you don't know who Alabama's announcer is. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
and I mean, Kentucky football. Oh, my God. Kentucky football.
Hey, and our basketball team was so terrible this year, it wasn't even funny. It's a terrible year. It's a terrible year.
You know what? All I care about is that Duke didn't make the tournament, and that makes me happy.
Well, see, there's our common ground. Although I respect the hell out of Coach K, I will celebrate every time Duke loses, and I don't care to who, and I don't care how they lose.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Christian Laettner is my most hated athlete in the history.
Stepped on whose chest did he step on?
Timberlake. He just stepped on Timberlake's chest. He didn't miss a shot that game though, Jim.
No, 10 for 10 from the floor, 10 for 10 from the line. I remember.
How do you not hammer him in that situation? Patino messed up, man. Didn't put anybody on the inbound guy and told him not to foul. And so they give him all this space. You should have hammered him in the next week and then said, what? You're gonna call a foul on Kentucky when they just upset Duke in the NCAA tournament? I don't know, man. If I were Patino, I'd have told him that ball doesn't get to the rim, and I don't care if bones are broken and blood flies. Do not let him get his shot off. That's just me. God, I hate watching that. Every damn March I have to watch that, Jim. Every friggin' March they replay that game.
And Mashburn fouled out. I remember that game. Like it was yesterday. I rooted for everyone who played Duke. I'm a UConn guy. I grew up in Connecticut, so Leitner ended the dream season, and then they beat us pretty bad the next year. But, we always have that 99 game, baby. We always have Richard Hamilton and Khalid El-Amin just taking it to those Dukies and beating that team with 4 first-round draft picks. 4 of them. And UConn beat them.
Yeah, I still got more trophies than the Dukies. They can say whatever they want, man. Just take the D and the U away, and you're stuck with UK.
You know what? That 96 Kentucky team is as good as any team I've ever seen, with Antoine Walker
I think
and
it's
Ron
the greatest.
Mercer
They had like 14 players go into the NBA off that team.
Nazi Muhammad, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the greatest college basketball team ever assembled, which is kind of weird because Kentucky had to assemble the greatest basketball team ever to get a national championship.
Here we go with Adam W031 said the belt already changed hands this year with Aljo. What a way. I mean, to actually have that be the first, because it didn't happen at all in 2020. No belt changed hands as a result of what happened in the octagon until Aljo and Petr Yan.
Yeah, and I wish
Tony M, CT in the house. Tony M, I love it. Who's Tony M? CT in the house, Connecticut. That's my home state. Small state, Jeff. Is that the music for us to? Oh, the show's over.
It might be.
Believe this. Already, the show's over, guys. I want to say thank you to all of you for being here. Man, my allergies, my eyes itchy. Tell you what, I need some more Level Select CBD from CBD Emporium. 3 levels for 3 levels of pain. CBD Emporium's got the hookup for Level Select CBD. It's good enough for me. It's good enough for Triple C, Henry Cejudo. Who else do you need? You got the regular dude. You got the world-class athlete. Nobody else. Just us, right? You're going to get 50% off with the code MMA50. 50% off at StayInTheFightMMA.com. It's StayInTheFightMMA.com for Level Select CBD from CBD Emporium. Level Select CBD. Stay in the fight. All of a sudden, my brain doesn't work. It's the end of the weekend. Thank you, Casey. Appreciate that. Really appreciate all of you in the chat room. Thanks to the fighters in the UFC and all the things that we did. Thanks for Dom Cruz and the guys listening to us out there in Cali this week. I've got interviews coming up with Vitor, with Kelvin Gastelum, and hopefully right now booking one with Dominic Cruz as we speak right here on MMA Weekly. That's how we roll. Thanks to you guys for being here. Thanks to Jeff. Don't forget, subscribe, like, bell, everything, so we can be there for you whenever you need us. We will be back later in the week. We'll have the preview show for Holland and Brunson, live stream that night, and of course, Fallout every Sunday, usually at 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific. Hey, Jim, the clock's changed. The clock's changed. Forgot that. Almost messed up the show today, guys. We love you. Appreciate you being here. For all the people at MMA Weekly, I'm Jim Grieshaber saying keep your game tight and your mind right. We are mercifully and thankfully out.